What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more early rave. And we're back with a tune that, I don't know, at least of the tunes that I've become familiar with over the years, and just to once again give context, I began listening to dance music in late 96, like, trance and techno that was coming out at the time through my older brother, although as I pointed out in my reaction to RTZ's Dance Your Ass Off, I did hear that tune, which is like an early techno track, like an early 90s hardcore tune, or when it came out in 91. But again, like 96 is when, and especially 97 is when I really, became interested in going to raves and, thought about getting turntables for the first time and so on. So for me, the tunes before, especially like 96, 95, which, those were the tunes being played when I started to go. Those, I had to get into and try to understand over the years, and especially once I started using Discogs in the early 2000s, I started learning more and more about stuff that came before, including stuff from the very early 90s, that what is often called like early rave or just rave. Now, again, like some of the tracks like then were called hardcore, and then because of genres that came later that are now called hardcore, you might call it like breakbeat or again like early rave. But this one is interesting. This is from 91, and it's another Belgian tune. I didn't realize that. I knew the RTZ track was a Belgian track. But we're going to listen to a tune. Make sure I have this right. Yeah, it's called Phantasia with a PH, and it's by Inner Light, which I never knew was a Belgian group, but all three of them are apparently from Belgium. So I believe the female vocalist is called Nikkie, and you're going to hear her tell a crazy story. And yeah, for the tunes that I'm familiar with, to get back to the sentence I started like 2 minutes ago, this is maybe the earliest track I would call acid trance in a very definitive sense. I see a lot of people on Discogs who've written about this release call it Goa or like proto Goa, because Goa trance hadn't really been dubbed as a genre yet. I'm fine with that, and again, the atmosphere, it is psychedelic in a way that I think that does make sense. But for me, because of the acid work and just the overall like centrality of that component, it feels like early acid trance to me. So again, you don't start seeing that phrase associated with tracks more regularly until like 93, especially by the time you get to like 94. Although some of that is still called hard trance more often than acid trance, whatever. There's so many different like avenues and digressions to go down here. I'll try to keep it tidy. But again, for me, this is one of like the earliest acid trance tracks, and it's, of the tunes pre-93, which tends to be the cutoff for me. Like, I've come to appreciate a lot of early 90s stuff, but even so, 93 and forward, it's, it's stuff that I'm into, and, even if it's like a couple years before I started going to parties, it's kind of in the same vein, these different genres. Prior to 93, the tunes do sound different enough that it's, it's just a different thing, and it's taken me a while to appreciate it more. But this one I rate as highly as stuff that came later, stuff that came from the heyday when I first started going. So, with no further ado, let's get it. This is Inner Light and their tune Phantasia from 1991.
Join me marching into my brain. I'm paralyzed, filled with emotions I cannot control. I remain totally conscious, taken over by the spell. I'm floating on the waves. I'm lifted up high in the sky. I'm shut off from the world and enter into the limbo. I'm overwhelmed with strange emotions taking control of my brain.
I really do love that.
It's beautiful,
I agree.
floating in the center of the universe. Afloat in heaven, surrounded by angels falling from grace.
Bass. Deep. Also, my cat is like trying her best to like roll off of my lap like a silly cat. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's not one I knew back when it came out. I mentioned before, the Dance Your Ass Off tune, I did actually hear that years before I would start going to parties. This is one I discovered later. I don't remember exactly when, but it was like, one of my techno friends was like, oh, like, you talk about tunes before 93, like, do you know Inner Light, Phantasia? And it's like, don't think I do, not by name. Yeah, and he linked me the video. So like I guess it would have had to have been at least like the late 2000s or late aughties, if you will, when I was starting to like do things online. So yeah, like bottom line, I think it's a really good tune, especially for 91. I think you could release that like mid 90s and that would still feel very fresh. So yeah, it's a top track. I noticed when I looked on Discogs a couple days ago, when the idea for doing this early rave playlist came to mind, or I was talking to a friend of the channel, Tassos, about it. I noticed they have one other release that came out right after this, and then that's it. So it seems like they were like a short-lived group, but made a couple tracks that people certainly remember. So yeah, again, it's an odd thing. Never realized they were from Belgium, but it does seem like some of the early seminal tracks that at least in the circles that I've come to be familiar with are influential were from Belgium. So in any case, Luca, I do apologize at this point. Like, she's so ridiculously adorable and sleepy, so I'm gonna have to pick her up, put her back down. She does not seem to mind, and we will see you next time. Peace.